swing this gavel for one last time here. All right. Okay, thank you everyone for coming. This is great. We got a really nice crowd tonight, and there you go. Really nice crowd, and thank you all for coming. First, if you would join me in prayer. On this occasion, Heavenly Father, send us your grace and understanding to conduct the business of our society. Send us words of wisdom and point our paths of direction to fulfill our roles as guardians of our national heritage. Join with us as we endeavor to honor the dreams of our forefathers. In your son's name, amen. Thank you. Okay, if you will, Mark, will you lead us in the pledge allegiance to the flag?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the
and to the
republic
republic for which it stands,
one
one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Peter, would you lead us in the Texas flag? Sure. Did you get your glasses? There you go.
On the Texas flag, I put, you said it,
And then Mark, would you lead us in the pledge to the SAR?
we, the descendants of the heroes
sacrifice
firm of faith and defense of liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Y'all can be seated. Okay, go around the table. I thank Tom Wilson, the president of the chapter, for another about 45 or so minutes. So anyway, you'll notice I have a big smile on my face today. Anyway, okay. So one of our usual things we like to do is go around the room and let everybody introduce themselves. And if you're a chapter officer currently, please let us know. If you're a dual member, what other chapter you're in, et cetera, a few things. And if you're a state officer, let us know that too. And don't forget the lovely wives that are here too when you do this. I know Bill won't, so Bill, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Tom. Bill Taylor, wife Carol, Frisco. Good evening, I'm Pete McClellan, and I'm currently the Sergeant at Arms, and I live here in McKinney.
I'm Drew Caldwell, and I live here in McKinney, and I have an application pending.
So I checked earlier in the week, and basically they're processing applications that are 2 days before when they registered him in the national to go through it. So I mean, he may already be there. I was supposed to check today and I forgot, but I'm gonna let you know. But we're in it. I mean, unless those guys are sleeping, we're getting dangerously close.
Jim Waterman, Frisco, Texas. I brought my wife, Jessica Waterman.
My name is Kerry Barnett from Frisco, Texas.
Don't forget who you are.
I'm
Webmaster. Yeah.
I'm Paul Andreessen, and I'm recently here from Alabama. I'm already a member of the SAR. I came in through South Carolina. So it's been some time since I've been able to attend a meeting. So it's a joy to be with you all.
And we're already working on getting him in, right? Right.
Tom Van Fossen, Dallas, McKinney, Plano, East Fort Trinity, District 6 VP.
John Greer from the banks of Lake Tawakoni, to fish your body. Catfish is $7 a pound in a grocery store. I take it to firemen in the green boat for free. And they just love seeing me walk in the door.
Rich Bonaparte, Registrar, McKinney Chapter.
I'm John Ray. I'm now a primary member of McKinney. I'm also a member of Plano and East Fork Trinity. And I am currently the Assistant Secretary to TXSAR.
Thank you for coming north and joining us.
Oh, yeah. Well, I live in Salina. so-
Okay, south, but not as far south, you gotta go.
Brett Webb, from McKinney, and my son Jack and my wife Jenny.
I'm Andy Wilson, McKinney Chapter and the VP of Awards.
I'm Bill Covington. I'm the Vice President and Speakers Bureau of the Arlington, Texas Chapter. And honestly, gentlemen, I've forgotten why I'm here tonight.
We'll come back.
Hi, I'm Lori Charbonneau. I'm with the John Upston chapter of the DAR, and I'm on your agenda, which I didn't realize I was going to rate that. I'll be talking to you in a few minutes. My dad is a member of this group, but he's not well right now, so he's wasn't able to come tonight.
And how old is he now?
My dad, Tom Gribble, just turned 89. And so,
There you go. Yeah.
Tom Schultz, McKinney, Texas, and member of this organization.
And Carol.
hi, I'm Carol Nilsson, and I'm his.
Lost Ruby Secretary, and online we have Don Bass, Tom Whitelock, and John Hutton. I'm Secretary.
I'm Mark McCraw. I'm in charge of programming, and I tried to talk Carol into letting Tom stay for another year, but I was unsuccessful. So I will be the incoming president.
Peter Ford, the treasurer of the McKinney Chapter.
I'm Jim Akers, this is my wife Sandy, and I am a member of the McKinney Chapter and president of the Denver Chapter.
My name is Jerry Kenny. I'm a member of the McKinney chapter.
Ray Hargis, I'm first vice president of Edmond Farrell and a member of McKinney.
I'm Bill Watts. I'm a member of the McKinney, Dallas chapter, Plano chapter. I think that's it. I'm the secretary of Dallas chapter.
T.O. Holden, member of Sherman, registrar there, genealogist for North Texas, and a member of this chapter.
I'm Gary Barker. I'm the president of the Edmond Hill chapter, and I'm also a member of Red River, Denton, McKinney. And I'm the Ambassador Fletcher Warren Greenville. And I'm the District 11 Vice President. And I am the North Texas Coast Guard Commander and the current Assistant Treasurer.
Soon in April to be. You're not gonna finish it. He's really.
And on the National Budget Committee.
Yeah. Well, we'll let them be surprised. Here in late March, early April, right? What you gonna do next? Okay, that's great. Okay, let's see here. Again, I think next thing is our program. I'm really excited about this. Bill and I met, and he came here last year, late in the year, and gave a great presentation. I've seen him at the Dallas chapter. We've become good friends, I think. He's really good at this, okay? And so I was excited to get him again. And if you notice the name of the program here, it says the January 1776 background to the Declaration of Independence. And it's January. So I thought this is a perfect time in getting ready, moving forward to the Declaration of Independence to get Bill's view of what all went on. So without further ado, Bill, I'll turn the mic over to you and
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for having me come tonight. I noticed there's a lot on the agenda, so I may move fast to get through this so that we're not here for forever. But when the fighting did start at Lexington and Concord in April of 1775, Congress was kind of they were undecided as to what exactly they wanted to do. And as a matter of fact, there were delegates, in particular the Pennsylvania delegation led by John Dickinson, that remained uncommitted to the move towards independence, because everyone was sure that if they crush us and we've declared our independence, then it's as Benjamin Franklin had said, if we do not all hang together, we will surely all hang alone. And but so things began to develop. There were arguments for and against. The more radicals, led by John Adams, definitely wanted to declare independence. But then in January, two situations arose that drove the Second Continental Congress a long way towards declaring independence. The first of those was that they heard that Hessians were being sent to the colonies to fight against the colonists. Now, let me clear one thing up real quickly, ladies and gentlemen. I know that when I was a kid and I would hear about the Hessians, and all the way up to when I was an adult and whatnot, I heard them referred to as mercenaries. That is not correct. A mercenary, as I understand it, is a soldier who forms a relationship with usually a rebel government or a rebel movement, and they come to an agreement between the representatives of that movement and the particular soldier. These men did not have that luxury. These men were levies. And basically what happened was when the war broke out, the British Army they felt like they were woefully undermanned. And so they immediately started looking for troops that they could put in a stopgap, and so that they could get their own recruitment up. So George III was not a member of the House of Windsor back at that point in time, which is the royal house's name today. He was a member of the House of Hanover. His grandfather, George I, had actually was German. As a matter of fact, he had translators with him all the time. He could barely speak to Parliament. He could barely speak with his own cabinet. Got a little bit better with George II, and George III, he was pretty confident in English. I think he took the throne when he was 25 years old, but he had to have some of his delegates take him into a map, and he had them take him into a large world map, and he said, now, where exactly are the 13 colonies? And so they had to point out to him on a map where the 13 colonies that were in rebellion were. As a matter of fact, he was so still kind of at his core, he was so German. He actually married a German princess. So, as a matter of fact, they had never met. This is the way I've heard the story, ladies and gentlemen. They never met before the day of their marriage. They had seen small miniature paintings of each other, but that was basically it. And she made sure that she learned to sing "God Save the King" before they actually got married. And there must have been something between them, because they had 12 kids. I think it was right, 12, yeah. And just a little aside about them, they always wanted the English people to believe that they had a healthy, vibrant royal family rule in them. So every day, George and his wife Charlotte would go out for a walk. The oldest son and the oldest daughter would walk arm in arm behind him, and all the way back down to the little kids. And they walked holding hands. And in later life, many of the royal family wrote about, I hated that time of day that we had to go out and walk behind mom and dad and let people see us. But so it was kind of, it was understandable. He reached out to the German princes, the Margraves. Germany was not a country at that point in time. It was a collection of principalities, of duchies, of Margraves. Germany is one of the youngest countries in Europe today. It is still one. It really did not become Germany until the treaty ending the Franco-Prussian War in 1871. But so he went to each of these princes and he said, I want to hire some of your soldiers. And together, George and this prince would come up with this long list of, okay, if you got this one guy, he's worth this much each day. If he gets wounded, he's worth this much. If he gets captured, he's worth this much. If he deserts, he's worth this much. I'm still going to get something for him, even if he runs off. And they just had this whole menu of costs for George III. Now these princes would tell George, oh yeah, I've got a couple thousand soldiers, and really they've got about 500. So they send out their recruiting parties, they send out their press gangs, and they move through villages, they start clearing out bars, they start going to gambling halls, stuff like that. They still don't get enough guys. Germany at this point in time is by and large a rural nation. They start going out into the farming fields. You start seeing young guys scattering, running off, diving into haystacks and whatnot. They still don't get enough. So the remedy is, well, we know that the German people are very religious. We got it made, guys. Just surround the churches on Sundays, have soldiers surround the churches, and as the pastor's shaking everybody's hand, they can separate the women out, they can separate the men out, and they can take them down to their training camps. And so at some point they reached the number of men that they had guaranteed George III. Discipline, first, this is another incorrect. They're not all Hessians. A Hessian is somebody who is from the Principality of Hesse. And there were two of them, Hesse-Hanau and Hesse-Kassel. I don't know why it was, we just gave them the name of Hessians. They were really German auxiliary troops. They could have come from, let's see, Anhalt-Zerbst, which the interesting thing is the woman who at this point is on the royal throne as the Tsarina of Russia, a woman who will eventually become Catherine the Great. She is the daughter of the reigning prince of Anhalt-Zerbst. There were men from the Palatinate. There were Brandenburgers. There were all these principalities that hired out soldiers to George III, and he loaded them all on ships and sent them over to the New World. They were renowned as being some of the finest soldiers in Europe. And this was arrived at because they basically had that beaten into them. Their discipline was very, very severe. And if a young enlisted man perpetrated some type of crime that the officers felt like he needed to be punished for, he had to run the gauntlet. And that is, and I don't have my musket here with me tonight, they would take the metal ramrods out of the musket and they would have two men standing, they would hold the ramrod out to where the tips touched one another, and then everybody else would line up in the same way, holding the ramrods out so they could touch. They would then start the guy, but he wasn't able to run. He had a sergeant actually walking backwards in front of him with a rifle, a musket, presented to his chest with a bayonet fixed on it. And the guy could only move as fast as that bayonet that was pressed into his chest. And they would strike him with these metal ramrods as they came by. And remember, guys, those have got a little metal button at the end so that you can ram the musket ball down the musket. it was not unknown for young men to die walking the gauntlet. And also too, I found out from reading some of the diaries of these men, promotion was very rare in the German auxiliary forces. I've read stories of guys who fought for 16 years, the entirety of the American Revolution, and sometime before that and after that. They finally left the military after 16 years. They were still a private. As a matter of fact, if they did something in combat that the officers felt like needed to be recognized, held up as an example to the rest of the men, they were usually rewarded monetarily, but they were rarely ever promoted. So as a result of these just really harsh, severe punishments that the Hessians, that these German auxiliary troops experienced, they can be pretty brutal in battle. And when they actually captured a town, the officers, I guess, realized enough about human psychology, in essence, they would kind of step back a little bit and they would just allow these guys to go wild in this town that they had just captured. So you can imagine they're perpetrating all kinds of outrages against probably the male populations basically being slaughtered, and the females are being abused and whatnot. They're stealing, they're looting, they're burning. And then after the officers felt like the men had gotten enough of that out of their system, they would move back in, get them under control, and march off to their next destination. So they had a horrible, horrible reputation. And one of the things that kind of saved us early on, ladies and gentlemen, they landed them in the wrong spot. They landed them in Pennsylvania. And they call them the Pennsylvania Dutch for a reason. It actually is the Pennsylvania Deutsch. These are German settlers who have come decades earlier. They've settled in Pennsylvania. These young guys are marching through towns that look pretty much just like the towns they just came from in Germany. The stone walls are built the same way. The orchards are pruned the same way. A door will open and a young Fraulein carrying a pitcher of water will come out speaking to them in German. And a lot of these German soldiers thought, I hear that there's land just over the mountains over there. And so I can either go back home when I finally finish my time here, if I'm still alive, and be just as poor as I was when I came here, or I can kind of run off. And, I don't necessarily have to join the Americans. A lot of them did. I don't have to join the American cause, but I can basically stay here and move further westward. And so it's honestly speaking, ladies and gentlemen, it's believed that a quarter of all of the German troops sent over here deserted during the course of the war. And they became some of our early frontiersmen who were pushing the borders of the country westward. Now, a little interesting thing here, before George III actually went to the princes and the margraves and whatnot of Germany, he initially approached Catherine the Great of Russia and asked, do you have Russian troops that I can hire to send over to the colonies to fight the rebellious colonists? I honestly believe the reason why she declined his offer, she had just suppressed the largest peasant uprising in the 18th century in European history. It was directed by a Cossack by the name of Yemelyan Pugachev. It involved about 125,000 peasants. They were defeating her armies, Catherine the Great's armies in the battlefield. And she had to pull some serious stuff. She had to really pull all the stops and just simply crush this rebellion and then have Pugachev executed. And so she had just suppressed that revolution in 1774, when a year later, the difficulties start in the colonies and she's approached by George III. So she said no. But think about it, guys. The Cold War could have started 250 years earlier. We could have been fighting Russian troops in the 13 colonies instead of, you know, kind of watching each other to push the button in the 1960s and 70s. So that was the first one. The Americans said, now we know what the British think of us because they're about to unleash these barbarians on us. So, and I really think that was the one that made us the most angry, was when we found out that Hessians were being dispatched over to the colonies. The second one was the publication of a pamphlet in American history. I actually read something just today that if you look at the number of copies that were printed of this 47-page pamphlet, and you look at the size of the number of people in the colonies at the time of its publication, about 2.5 million, it is still the leading bestseller in American history. Thomas Paine published Common Sense. It's a fictional conversation between a British merchant and an American merchant, in which the American merchant eventually convinces the British guy, we deserve to be a free people. And it was only 47 pages long. Now, by a pamphlet, this is what would be called a pamphlet back. It's something that they consider too short to be bound in a book form. And so they stitch it along the edges, and this again is what is, and as I say, Common Sense was 47 pages long. Now the interesting thing is, if you open the book, and it's kind of hard, you can come up and look at it. I'll leave all this out here for y'all to look at afterwards. There is a word offset at the bottom of every right-hand page. And if you turn the page, it is the first word at the top of the next page. This is so that someone could read it aloud to a group of people, like in a tavern, and be pronouncing the first word on the next page as he's turning the page. No, another thing too, ladies and gentlemen, we had our highest literacy rate in our nation's history. Was at this, we had about a 90% literacy rate at this point in time. We also were at our youngest. The nation, one out of every 2 people was under the age of 18. And so we were a very young nation. We were a very well-educated nation. And but yet they still printed books like this. So again, so that people could read them to an assembled group of people. Thomas Paine, he was an Englishman. He had just a tremendous hatred for George III. He constantly referred to him as that fat, stupid man. He was a failed corset maker. And so if you ladies and gentlemen know what a corset is, it's the only thing between the corset and the woman's skin would be her chemise, which is basically an ankle length gown fitted over top of her. Basically, it was a long nightgown, and the corset would fit on there to basically act the same way that underwires and things like that today act. And so he was a failed corset maker, but he turned out to be a pretty good writer. And the numbers I saw today was within 1 month, and there's some historians who contest this, but the numbers I've heard is that within 1 month it sold 150,000 copies. And it spread wildly. All Americans read it. Of course, you know, my favorite one, Common Sense kind of gets a little they use an awful lot of merchant terminology and stuff like that. But when just prior to the Battle of Trenton, he wrote The American Crisis, which is the one that starts out with the famous words, "Now are the times that try men's souls." And so he was a tremendous writer. He remained one of our main propaganda specialists throughout the war. After the war ended, he kind of became I mean, the best comparison I can make is he kind of became an Old Testament prophet. And that is, you know, the kings of ancient Israel are saying, can somebody get rid of this guy? He's starting to complain about everything, you know, and he's making it a little uncomfortable. He very much supported the French Revolution. When they executed Louis XVI in January of 1792, I think it was. And then they executed Marie Antoinette 9 months later in October of 1782. Thomas Paine cheered that on. Washington was saying, we didn't do that. We didn't go that step. We did not actually shed the blood of the people that we were trying to get out of power. And he actually ended up, and because he was the French had kind of weird political parties, and he was a Girondist, and the Girondists fell out of favor with the guys who came in with Robespierre. And Thomas Paine actually ended up in prison, and but was freed because of the efforts of the American ambassador in France. He came back to the United States. When he finally died, he was a deist. He was very, very much against Christianity, organized Christianity. When he finally died, he died in Greenwich Square. The building that he died in is no longer there, but there's a plaque affixed saying that close to this spot, Thomas Paine died. The Quakers had the local cemetery. They refused to have him buried there because he had come out so much against organized religion. So they took him back to his 100-acre farm and buried him under a walnut tree there on his farm. 6 people attended his funeral. So that showed you how popular he was. And but the interesting thing is he died in 1809. And about 12 or 13 years later, a radical English reformer by the name of Philip, I think his last name is pronounced Cobbett, Cobbett, showed up in America with the intention of returning Thomas Paine's bones back to his home parish of Thetford, England, and reburying it with full honors there in England. I think he may have just gone out to Thomas Paine's farm and dug him up. But when he carried the bones back to England, as we learned just a few minutes ago, going through customs can be just a few weeks ago, going through customs can be kind of tough sometimes. And he declared that he had bones to bring in. They said, well, it wasn't the fact that he was bringing bones in, it said he was bringing that guy's bones in, because it was known that Thomas Paine hated George III was still alive, that he hated George III, and a big, huge debate broke out. You know, they brought in government lawyers, and this man, Philip Cobbett, hired his own lawyers. While they were arguing the case, Thomas Paine's bones disappeared. And we don't know where they are today. So there is an empty grave somewhere in New York State, but that's all we know. People have occasionally said, "Oh well, I've got the skull of Thomas Paine in my manor house, and I've got the lower leg bones of Thomas Paine and whatnot." So, but those two incidences, the publication of Common Sense and us hearing that Hessians were being sent over, those drove us a long way. So in May of 1776, we elected a committee of 5 men. Thomas Jefferson, who wrote most of the Declaration of Independence, Benjamin Franklin, Robert Livingston, who would be the first ambassador to France. He's the one who, while he was over in France, he encountered a young American named Robert Fulton, who was experimenting with steam engines, and convinced him to come back to the United States and continue his experiments over here. And he, of course, revolutionized river travel all across the world because of building the Claremont. in 1805. I think that was right. So, but also there was John Adams, and then there was one other gentleman, and I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was, but those 5 men sat down and drafted our Declaration of Independence and presented it to Congress. It was not signed on the 4th of July. It was signed on the 2nd of July. It was first read to the public on the 4th of July. But John Adams carried on his diary about, 2nd of July is going to be a date that's going to be remembered forever. There's going to be huge fireworks. There's going to be parades. There's going to be grand speeches. All this stuff's going to happen on the 2nd of July. And of course, we all know it didn't happen that way. But we knew when we took that step, when they fixed their signature to that, there was no going back. We had broken with England, and it was going to be a contest to the bitter end. Do you all have any questions you want to ask? As I said, I'll leave this out here if you want to come up and look at any of this. There's a this is called the broadside. It's only printed on one side, and of course, with the 9 coffins or the 5 coffins at the top, it's dealing with the Boston Massacre, and then this has got an early version down here in this corner. It's got an early version of Yankee Doodle on it. So, but do y'all have any questions you want to ask? Yes, Tom.
No. With all the work that had been done to get the quote unquote Germans over here, how did we get our students?
He was a volunteer. He came over to us. So did DeKalb. DeKalb came over also. Of course, DeKalb was killed, I believe, at the Battle of Camden. But yeah, we had lots. Foreign volunteers began to show up and just simply offered their services. And of course, it turned out with von Steuben that he had lied to Washington. He said he was a Prussian field marshal. He had never risen higher than a captain in the Prussian military, but Washington didn't care. Von Steuben, the drill master of Valley Forge, had worked miracles. And so he remained our muster master, as I understand it. He remained in that position throughout the war. He wanted to be buried. No, I'm sorry. He never built any structure. After the war was over, he kind of retired from life. He built a 2-room house. And it's in Steubenville, New York now. And he said, I want to be buried in an unmarked grave when I'm buried. And so they found his body in 1915 when they were building the highway. And so they kind of went around him and put this huge obelisk up over his grave. But yes, yeah.
I understand that in southeastern Pennsylvania, the Americans had 2 German regiments. Were they some of these so-called Hessians who decided to walk with their feet, come over the mountain, or were they the ones that were already dissidents?
I think the answer to both those questions is yes. They were Germans who wanted to remain here in the colonies. They probably felt like they were Americans at that point in time. But when the other Germans were around them, they realized these people are just like us. And so, and I imagine that American officers, they would target German prisoners, especially American naval officers who could speak German. They would be allowed to come into prison camps and they would recruit in a native language that men could understand. But I imagine that with those regiments, the German regiment of Maryland and then the German regiment of Pennsylvania, they probably just recruited them by saying, hey, you're like us, you understand us. Why don't you come and join us now? Now that you've run off from these guys, just come and join us. And there were some of them, I'm sure, that did that. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? Hopefully I kept this short, but thank you all very much for letting me speak to you.
Thank you. Okay, so. Certificate of appreciation for you. And it says on it, certificate of William Covington Jr. Certificate of Appreciation. In recognition of his continued support, providing outstanding historical programs to the McKinney Chapter Sons of the American Revolution. On this day, he presented the January 1776 background to the Declaration of Independence. So, thank you for that. And then, because I know he's an avid reader, because he comes up here to what? At the second,
Yes.
yeah, the used bookstore, whatever.
Oh,
Second prize, but it's that exactly. So anyway, they probably were second prize, but anyway, so he comes up here to miss the traffic, and then he spends, this is what he loves to do. He spends an hour or two looking at all the books up there. So I wanted to give you this book. It's 7 Leadership Lessons of the American Revolution by John Henthal. It's a signed copy in case it goes big time. And anyway, but he goes through and talks about each one of the patriots that were basically real leaders and why he considers them leaders and some leadership today. And as a teaser, later this year, we're going to have this man here to talk to us. So anyway, so let me hold up. Let's see if we can get the book up here. How you want to? All right, there you go. Okay, man, you got all this and all that. Thank you so much. And I hope you'll come back. Okay, good. All right, that's great. Well, thank you so much. Okay, so moving on here, I want to basically turn this over to Gary Barker to do our officer induction.
We need all of the officers.
Yes, everybody up here. Everybody's here that's an officer.
Everyone has learned how to say no.
Too late for them.
Let's see here. Okay, so we may have to do tall guys on the front.
Let's just get the.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. Actually, I got this.
Mark, you
You go ahead. Okay.
Okay,
Oh, I guess I read. Okay. Okay.
all good.
Okay.
Okay, so if you will, you don't have to read this, but well, that's your part. Okay. So I want you to raise your right hand and gentlemen, having been duly elected as officers of the McKinney Chapter, Sons of the American Revolution, do you promise and swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution and bylaws of the National Society of the Sons of the American Revolution?
I do.
And do you further promise and swear that you will faithfully discharge the duties of your office to the best of your knowledge and ability?
Oh, well.
And that you will at all times conduct yourselves in a manner worthy of our society, so help you God.
Well.
Thank you. And
Picture.
yes, let's go ahead and do some, we'll get some.
Yeah, pictures. We got the heat back there ready. You good? Good. Okay, right, okay.
And before I want to do the president's a separate deal. I want, before I let you guys go, everybody else out there, including yourself, that are members of the McKinney Chapter, help these guys out. They various duties here. They've got big jobs to do, and sometimes we kind of say, "Oh, it's an honorary thing," but there is a lot of work that goes into a lot of these positions. So please be there to support them and help them out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
President of the law, and I'm not privileged to present you with this gavel. I'm going to give it to you there. As a symbol of the authority now vested in you, wield it always with dignity and honor. Everyone in the McKinney chapter, I've officially installed all of these officers. And I want to remind you again that your obligation to them and ask you to assist, support, encourage them with the discharge of their duties in furthering the Sons of the American Revolution. I told Mark this afternoon, I talked to him on the phone briefly. I said, your goal is, was it 2 years, Governor in office?
6 months. Maybe.
No. It's usually 2. We're going for 2. But, just to get to that mark. So anyway, I give it to you, Mark.
We get a picture? I think it's documented.
Yes.
For that's why for. Okay.
Thank you, and I'd also like to thank Tom for his leadership over the past many years. I know he's been president for the last 2 years, and it's served very hard for much longer than that. So first of all, I'd like for us to give him a round of applause. And traditionally, the outgoing president receives a variety of different things, and we have many of these on order. So at the next meeting, you will be getting the normal things that the outgoing president gets, but we also have some additional gifts that he will be receiving. So I hope that y'all can all come back for that meeting to see what all Tom will get. And also, while I'm up here, not to embarrass his grandson, but his grandson got all A's again. And I happened to be at the school and he got, I guess, the loudest ovation from all of his classmates. So that's something to be recognized as well. So
did your daughter.
well, but she get the ovation a lot. It got for sure. So first we have the announcements and old business. One matter of old business, I know that the race across America that we participated in that, and Tom wisely recommended that we pre-purchase some for next year because we got a discount. So I know that some of the people were involved in that, and thankful for that. I think that's very a wise thing that we do, and being involved in the local community and nationwide as well. It's a very a good cause there.
And during that little period when we could buy the wreaths for this year, we've already got 66 wreaths.
Oh,
Wonderful. And and this was my first year up there at the cemetery. It's a wonderful small cemetery about 15 minutes from here. Tom's family invited a bunch of elementary school children also who participated in the ceremony. It's wonderful for us. Wonderful being part of that community up there. Wonderful for them. A great learning experience for them as well. So does anyone else have any additional old business that we need to cover at this time? Okay, moving on to new business. The first order of new business that Tom promised me that or I guess made me promise to cover would be dues. And so that's probably not the best thing to have to attack. However, most of our people have already paid dues so far, so we're thankful for that. If you know of anyone that hasn't paid dues, if you can let us know, we'll contact them. Our chapter has been very good about that in the past, and we're on track for that, but there are a few that are still behind in getting that done, and we can work with them and trying to find a way to get those processed if they need help with that. Next, from the DAR, we have Lori Carbonneau, and she works with Malvern Elementary, which is about a mile from here. They work with literacy, and they've got some great programs going on with them. In fact, one coming up, I believe, next week, right?
yes.
So I'll hand this over to you. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Berger. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm Lori Charbonneau with the John Epson DAR chapter here. And I am the literacy promotion chair for the chapter and had the good fortune to meet with Rhonda Gilliam, who's the principal at Malvern Elementary. Malvern is a really interesting school. As you said, they're only a mile or so from here. And they've got about 450 students. They have students from 20, at least 20, over 20 different countries around the world. Quite a variety of backgrounds and all, and of course they all are thrilled to be here. And the school is just a beautiful, beautiful place. I have a little flyer, not lots of copies, but some copies. If you anything I say speaks to you, help yourself, or I've got my contact information too. If you want, I'll be glad to share your things. But yes, we've identified that Malvern is the school that we've partnered with to try and help promote literacy with their students. We've got 4 possible volunteer activities ranging from mentoring an individual student on campus with at least an hour a week, and then less commitment. The third item on our list is actually coming up this next Thursday evening. It's the Malvern Multicultural Fair, where they invite representatives, families mostly from their school, to represent their culture and what they've learned from their culture, what their culture has taught them. And we have been invited to represent colonial America. So I'm looking for volunteers, good at you, that might like to come help. Don't have to be in colonial garb. I'm planning to, but I've got to get it finished to be ready. So I may be in my red shirt if nothing else. But we're going to have little food samples. We've got some Martha Washington recipe cookies that we're going to have little samples of. We've got some photos from Colonial Williamsburg and Mount Vernon that we'll have on display. We're going to have coloring pages for different activities, colonial type activities, quilt design, things like that, and encourage children and their parents to come by and talk with us that evening. So setups at 4 o'clock. I think I said 4:30 on one paper, but it's 4 o'clock. The fair runs from 5 to 7 and then tear down afterwards. And if people could volunteer for any hour of that period of time and help us get set up and just be there and interact with students and their families as they come by. The fair last year had about 500 attendees, they tell me. So I didn't realize it was that large a scope until I'd already said yes. So now we're working to drum up some more volunteers. So that's what I am offering, that we'd love to have people come out. If there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. I'll be around. You can talk to me afterwards. Any question? Yes, sir.
What's the date on that?
It's a week from tonight, January 26th.
You also have some opportunities for tutoring and that
Yes,
sort of thing.
yes.
I just mentioned that briefly.
Yeah, so if you grab a flyer, I put them in order of the most time for an individual down to the least time or maybe no time. And the most time would be if a person is able to and willing to go through the school district screening process to volunteer to be a mentor for a student at Malvern Elementary. They ask the mentors to come and spend at least 1 hour a week on campus with their student. That the scheduling, I understand, is really between you and the school and the student. It sounds like they even will pull students out of class if the time spent with you is more valuable than what they might be doing that particular hour in the class. They've got games in the library, of course, books in the library. You could just sit and talk. They're very open of what the mentor does, but they said, you know, the families have requested that their student have a mentor. And of course, they never have enough mentors for all the families that have requested someone meet with their child on a regular basis. And don't have to be reading, but the ultimate goal is, yes, to help improve literacy for those children. So that's the most time commitment. A second time commitment is less and does not require going through the official school background, and that is to be a mystery reader. The different teachers will ask to have someone come and read a book to their classroom, and often they'll offer the mystery readers 2 or 3 books to choose from. You would get to pick ahead of time what you wanted to read. If you wanted to dress up or have funny voices or other things that you've probably experienced when people were reading to you, or maybe when you took your child to story time, they appreciate all of those things too. The third one is this next Thursday evening, the multicultural fair, so that's just one evening, an hour or 2 or 3. And then the last one of our 4 was help provide some funding for different literacy promotion programs that the school already has. So in all of this case, we were very fortunate. Malvern is already doing these things. They were just glad to have more people know about it and offer to come help them. So we didn't create anything brand new, but we're trying to spread the word about programs they're doing. I did want to comment, Bill, I was surprised you said literacy in the colonial times was 90%. That's remarkable. I have some stats here that are kind of concerning, or are very concerning. It's estimated at this point about 1 in 4 children in America grow up and really do not learn to read at a level that will help them be a successful adult. And then looking at juveniles who have made some bad decisions and are in the juvenile court system, about 85% of them are functionally illiterate. And you can imagine how frustrating that would be, just not be able to function in your own society. And more than 60% of all inmates in American prisons are functionally illiterate. So we'd like to not perpetuate that. So anything that y'all are able and willing to do, would sure appreciate your assistance with Malvern Elementary. Yes.
Great, and thank you so much for coming, Lori. Lori's email and her phone number are both on this pamphlet that she brought. And just to echo what Lori said, for us to have a good community, you have to have people have to have an education. They have, and I know that our particular group is we're very big on service. We've done a lot with veterans and with elementary children. If you have the time, even a little bit of time, and it's something that you feel moved to do, that'd be very helpful. If you want to give a little bit of money, that'd be great too. Even $10 would help them on different things. And so this coming Thursday, Lori will be there, and if someone has time to meet her over there to at least participate in that, she'd be very thankful for that. Okay, next, moving to we have a new member induction, and I would invite Tom back up for that.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Okay. Hey, great, Jack Webb, you come up and bring your parents with you. So, Patriot Jack Webb is a junior member of our chapter. And he recommended his father. Okay. Yeah, okay. So that's what this is about. So this is Brett Allen Webb. And again, on the recommendation of his son, we want to induct him tonight into our chapter. So would you raise your right hand, please? I don't know. Okay, so Patriot Brett Webb, to you as a descendant of one of the patriots and heroes of the American Revolution, reaffirm your ancestors' faith in the principles of liberty and our constitutional republic. And will you pledge to support the National Society Sons of the American Revolution? Yes. Okay, thanks. Okay, yeah, and that now gives me great pleasure in presenting you with your certificate here. You know, and I'm going to slip in here, give this to you. You'll come over this way a little more. And you stay right there. We're going to get a group shot here. Okay, not through yet. Okay, so. Who's going to get to do this? Now try not to hurt him too bad, you know. Some people forget to put the pin on, the little clip on the back of the pin. And where is it? Where is it? I knew you were up here for a reason, Jack. Watch your crampy quick. Okay. So again, this rosette basically is the official recognition emblem of the Sons of the American Revolution. It's a blue and buff colors, represent the colors of the uniform worn by George Washington. So wear it with pride. Okay, so all right. So compatriot Webb, we welcome you to the McKinney chapter, and that we ask that you work with us to fulfill the purposes and objectives of the Sons of the American Revolution. At this time, would you like to say a few words about your patriot? You got it.
Okay, my patriot was James Mathis, and he is my fifth great grandfather, born in 1742 in Amherst, Virginia. His daughter Mary, my fourth great grandmother, was born in 1778. On June 2nd, 1782, James appeared before the Public Claims Court in Amherst, Virginia, seeking reparations for goods and services provided to the Virginia militia during the war. So during the war, it was common for the militia to acquire goods and services from the citizens, and then the citizens could petition the Public Claims Court for reimbursement. So James requested reimbursement for the following. He needed a new wagon cover, iron gear, and a man's saddle, one horse 17 years old, one horse 16 years old, and one horse 13 years old, and one rifle. He also served as a wagon driver for 60 days, for which he required 7 pounds and 10 shillings. And a note with this service said Gates defeat. On other appearances in the Public Claims Court, he petitioned for food provided, including 45 pounds of bacon. As we all know, bacon makes everything better. After the war, he moved to Davidson, Tennessee, where he died in 1837.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. Okay, as with all the members, everybody rally around Brett and ensure to support him and encourage him as he supports our organization. Okay, with that, do I have the next one?
Yes, you do.
Okay. Would you like that? Well, anyway, well, that's the one for the special award.
So next we have Tom will be presenting.
Yep, this is the leftover. I kept. So where's Pete? Come up. Come up here. Come up. I'm giving it to nearly everybody else except you and one other guy, and I can't get a problem with him. He's working all the time, so I don't want to get between him and the work here. But so as a lot of you know here, back in October, our chapter was the host chapter for a board of managers meeting. And so I asked for volunteers, and I think before it was over with, I got 12 volunteers to help us. And Pete was one of them, but Pete started special because number one, he's the sergeant at arms, okay? And number two, if you notice, I have to look up to Pete. So you don't want to make, and with his name, you don't want to make him mad, you know. Now, having said that, he's one of the nicest guys you're ever going to want to know. But anyway, he's always there when I've asked him to do other things, including messing up, I think, a football game one time. He was going to watch to go judge an oration contest for the SER in, where was that? Terrell or? Yeah, wherever it was anyway. And he said, I'll do that. And he went there and I got the word back that he did a great job on doing that. So I wanted to thank you for your service, especially relative to volunteering for the fall BLM. So there you go. Yes, yes. Appreciate you. Okay. Back over to you.
So next on our agenda is the approval of the December minutes. In December, we have a Christmas party at Judge Nathan White's house, and Wanda was our lovely host. At dinner there, the minutes were prepared by Blas, our secretary, and Carrie's posted them to the website. So does anyone have any questions or comments concerning the minutes? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Pete McCullen has moved. Any seconds? And Andy Wilson has seconded. All in favor of approval of the minutes from December, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All All opposed? The minutes are approved. Next, moving to the treasurer's report. Peter, I know that you have submitted that. Do you have any comments related to that, or do you want to?
I'll read it out.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I apologize, it's a little lengthy. Okay, so the bank balance as of December 15th meeting was $6,714.39. Income for the month consists of $2,071.40, and that's from the fall BOM proceeds. And then there was a $40 donation as well. Expenses for the month were $778.46, which were covering the fall BOM. There was $210.46 for the veterans' Christmas gifts, and there was $106.21 for food for a Christmas party. That brings the balance in the checking account to $7,730.66. There are 3 outstanding checks. There's $54.05 for veterans' Christmas gifts. There's a $250 donation to the CAR and $47.89 for Federal Express shipping for our teachers award registration. The total funds available are $7,378.72. Anyone have any questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you, Peter. So at this time, do we have a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
We don't do that.
Okay,
We're gonna audit it.
that's exactly right. So I apologize for that. Yes, so that brings me to the next point, that yes, now we're going to audit our reports. So we need to have a financial audit committee. We're going to have that made up of 2 people. Peter McClellan has been brought into service for that, and we need 1 more volunteer. So if anyone is good with numbers or good with finances, or would like to volunteer for that, we're looking for volunteers. We don't think it'll take that long. We don't have that many transactions, but this is something that we want to get instituted. So if you could please contact me or Pete on that, be helpful related to that.
We'd like to have at least 2.
At least 2. Yeah, so we can have as many as, we have a lot more, but at least 2. Yes, that's correct. So do we have any other business announcements from the floor? Anyone from yes, sir.
I introduced myself earlier. I'm John Ray.
Can we get a microphone?
I'm the assistant secretary, and one of my duties is dealing with the medals that we have. And y'all may have seen an email that came out from Jim Kuykendall for a 250th United States anniversary medal that he had struck for us. These medals are available for membership. They're $50, and they're fund any of the 250th anniversary projects that the SAR is going to be working on here in Texas. We already have a project for a marker at the Texas State Cemetery, a statue of Bernardo Galvez in Galveston, and that's all I've heard of so far, but there'll probably be other projects. So I have those with me if anybody's interested. Like I said, they're $50. Thank you.
Yes.
Have y'all seen this last edition of the Texas Compatriot? This is the picture that we took up at the VA. Passed around. We had made a hit when we went up to the VA with almost $1,300 worth of donations from the 5 chapters around. The next thing that we're going to be doing is Valentine's Day. And Valentine's Day, February 14th, this is a little pin that I got from the VA a couple of years ago, is known as Hospitalized Veterans Appreciation Day. We've got approval to work a table in the front lobby of the VA in Bonham. I need some help. I need some volunteers. And I need some Valentines. So if you can do some Valentines and write the same thing that you did in Christmas. Thank you for your service, McKinney Chapter SAR, Sons of the Revolution. Now, one thing that we found out this week that I did not know, the bottom VA is not allowing us to bring magazines and books up. And they're also not allowing us to bring used clothing. The Dallas VA is. So what I need all of you to do is collect magazines. We want magazines that are no more than 3 or 4 months old. How do you get magazines if you don't have any? I'm sure every single person in here goes to a doctor's office. So what you do is you ask the people at the doctor's office, what do you do with your magazines when you get your new ones? Would you save them for me? And give them your business card. If you don't have a business card, go to Staples and get you some business cards. $9.99, you can get 250. They're real easy to do. Then what you do is bring the magazines to the meeting, and we'll have Tom or whoever all that comes to the Dallas meetings to bring those magazines and books. In other words, paperback books. If you got some paperback books that you've been reading, bring those. Then the other thing that they've done that they want is new or slightly used clothing. The main things that they usually love to have are blue jeans. They will take slacks. They will take new house shoes. And because of the Dallas VA, they have ladies up there. They do want dresses and they do want skirts. So if y'all will bring those to the meeting, we can get those to the VA each month. That'll help the Dallas chapter because they're just now starting to get their veterans program going again. And everything that we donate to the VA, we get credit for. At the end of the year, they do a meeting with our VABS reps, of which I'm one. We have Bob Johns is one, and it goes to the bottom, and also Mike Goody. And we have a meeting with the VA, and they tell us how much we have given to the VA in dollars. For every hour that we volunteer at the VA, we get credit for about $23. So that's not all, everything that we give them, they put a dollar value to. So at the end of the year, that we know how much money that we have given to the VA. At one time, when we were really rolling, we were up to $33,000 at the VA in Bonham. That's including all of the chapters that we do. So that's pretty impressive. But we're not near as big as somebody like the American Legion or the VFW. So if y'all can help us with that, we would appreciate it. And I know Tom's back here, and they would appreciate anything that you can do to help us.
I'll tail in on what he said about the veteran. If you are interested in medals, there is a service for veterans medal that you can earn. All you have to do is download PDF format and fill it out and send it in, and you can get a medal. It's very easy. It's 5,000 points, but everything you do adds up points, and it's very easy to get it. I got mine fairly quick, so I suggest that you do that. Secondly, we have a Patriot Blade marking in March 19th at 3 o'clock. In Lancaster, we're going to be marking the grave of Patriot James Lemon. Interesting story about Lemon. He was a messenger boy for his father, Robert Lemon. And he carried messages back and forth with George Washington. And when he finally became 16 years old, he joined regular Army and was in the. Now, he escaped me which one he was on, but he was in one of the Virginia regiments that only lasted a year. And then he got shipped off to another regiment. We have no record of where he went, but we do have records that he did go to one regiment that only lasted a year. And I encourage all of you to come to Patriots Leg Marking. If you have not done one, you will really enjoy honoring a true patriot of the American Revolution. But again, we also want to fill out your paperwork to earn your service to veterans medal. Our veterans did so much for all us. We need to be friendly.
Mr. John.
John doesn't need another medal.
There's two medals that I have that I really am proud of. One of them is that Nathan White gave me, which is the Patriots Medal. I received that medal in 2002. The other medal that I'm really proud of is my Service to Veterans Medal. I received that medal in 2003. I was the first one in the state of Texas to receive the Service to Veterans Medal. And that's this one here. So if you'll keep track of everything that you do, when you get 5,000 points, that medal is yours. It is a medal that you earn after you do in the Boy Scouts. So once you do that, we'll make sure that you get that medal. Because that medal can be given by the chapter. So whenever they make 5,000 points and show you the points, so keep track of everything that you do. So we're going to get you, we're going to stay on you to do things for the veterans, because y'all know how much I love doing the Vietnam lapel pins. And we're right at 1,100 of these lapel pins that Theo and I have given in the whole next year. McKinney is a community partner with these lapel pins. And one of the things that I did in December is I went to a senior citizens place in Greenville. I was able to get them to do a program for us. And we presented 22 veterans of the Vietnam pins. We presented 4 of the spousal widows pins. And we really had a real reading this McKinney's almost 3,000.
Yeah.
If you go to the senior citizens center here in McKinney, and if anybody wants one of these pins to take with them, let me know in the time. And ask them how many veterans are coming to their senior citizens center. And it's not really we got something that we can provide to these Vietnam veterans. We did a program, a presentation yesterday at the Arlington Chapter. There was a Vietnam veteran got up and told us how they were treated when they got back from Vietnam. But we're trying to stop that. Let everybody know that we do appreciate what they did.
Yes, sir.
I just want to recognize 2 people tonight. One, I would like to recognize our registrar, Rich Bonaparte. I think I have 8 applications to him right now, and he's doing a phenomenal job of keeping me up to date, communicating frequently. Where I don't have adequate proof, where he doesn't think it's going to work, he'll dig in and work with me. And he's a good man on good hands from the registrar standpoint. So I just want to thank you, recognition for everything you do. And secondly, as a new member to McKinney this year, I just want to recognize Tom. Tom, you did a great job of making me feel welcome, making sure you were communicating to me early on. And before Rich took the registrar job, you were helping me with my work, and you did a great job. It's an honor to know you, and I'm glad I'm here. So thank you very much.
Any other old business? Great. So if anyone has questions we can leave tonight about when to get the Valentine's Day cards in, or with clothing, where to drop that off, or the medals or anything like that. Feel free to email me or text my cell phone. And to echo what he just said, I think we've got a great group of people. We have a group of people with very different talents, and I think that we're using those wisely. And I think that we're having a great year upcoming. So, okay. So, is there any additional announcements? Anything, Andy? Yes, one. Thank you.
So I just want to say at the February meeting, we'll be awarding 2 outstanding American history teacher awards. So you can look forward to that. And I've invited them to come early and have some barbecue with us. One guy is a former Marine, and he's a middle school teacher now, which is probably a good second career after being in the Marines. I can say that as a former middle school teacher. And so, and then a high school AP history teacher from Centennial High School in Frisco. So they'll both be here and we'll do those awards. We also have a young man who submitted his Eagle Scout award for us. And so he's not available in February, but hoping to give that award to him in March. So those will be coming up soon. So thank you, Mark.
Okay, is Don Babs?
Yes, he is.
Okay, so at this time, I'll turn over to Don Babs, our chaplain, for the benediction.
Yes. Let us pray. The peace of God, which passes all understanding, keep your hearts and minds in the knowledge and the love of God and of Jesus Christ our Lord, and the blessings of God Almighty remain with you always. Amen.
Amen. With that, we are adjourned. I apologize. Yes. All right. Absolutely. Until we meet again.
Again. Yes.
And now, with that, we're adjourned.
Hey.